What's up, everybody? It's Xanet Manticore, and I'm here with a very interesting video. At least I hope it'll be interesting. So a friend and I have been playing a game called SWAT 4 recently, and it's a tactical first-person shooter with a lot of very team-based elements built into the game. Well, that game was released back in about 2005, 2006, depending on if you're playing the expansion. The expansion really, I can't pronounce the name. I can't pronounce the expansion name. Was released in 2006. So we've been looking for a more modern version of SWAT, maybe just some tactical shooter, whether it be from Sierra Entertainment, the creators of the SWAT series, or not. In the search for it, I came across this game, called Ready or Not. It's been in development for a little over a year now. I believe that the first devlog came out in 2017. However, we will see in just a moment whether or not that's true. So, just watching the banner here, it's very obvious that it's meant to be a slower-paced tactical shooter, much as I described. In the FAQ section of the website, the developers, Void Interactive, as you can see in the URL up there, specifically cited SWAT 4 as their primary inspiration for wanting to create this game. They're a small independent company that's working on this just out of appreciation for the genre of tactical shooters. Now, inevitably, something that a lot of people will say is that, oh, well, why don't you just play Rainbow Six Siege? Why don't you just stop being bad and get Siege? Play Siege. Why don't you play Siege? Well, the reasoning behind that is because Siege is not a tactical first-person shooter. It is more akin to your Call of Duties and your Battlefield 1s. It's not a true tactical shooter, however much it may try to disguise itself as one. A tactical shooter is a more slow-paced game and has more objectives than just secure the hostage or defuse the bomb, as you will be taking part in multiple hostage situations in a single area, as opposed to trying to rescue a single person from a terrorist organization. And Siege, while it may be good, it's not that kind of good. It doesn't have a single-player story, which Ready or Not, as well as the SWAT series, have. It also doesn't have the same level of customization as the SWAT series has had, and Ready or Not will have. So let's go ahead and dive right into the different devlogs. So, coming down here to the first one, Ready or Not Devlog 1 Teaser and Beyond. This was published in May 4th of 2017, so it's been just under a year. And these are looking back at... Oh, I'm sorry. It's been in development since June of 2016. So still a little under a year, but a little bit closer. It's about 10 months in at this point. Oh, I'm sorry. I can't math. It's been a little under 2 years. So looking at the different dev blogs, we'll see that there are some rather large changes in between the different dev blogs, and they are rather spaced out, as you'll see. This is May 4th of 2017. However, they've been working since June of 2016. Right now, there is no alpha as of yet. However, we will definitely be looking forward to that. The important thing is that we will have up to 8 players in co-op play. You'll get to play. There will be PvP, just because it's basically a requirement of games these days. Or if you're playing the single-player mode, you'll be able to command AI in order to help you out in your missions. Right now, the features in their private build, I guess you could say, is that they're working on an incremental lean system that, unlike Siege, which only has a left or right lean, and there is no increments in between them, this will have multiple levels of leaning, which you can access by just tapping your presumably Q and E keys multiple times. That way, you can tap it just to peek, or just to peek your head around, or you can tap it multiple times in order to, say, fire around a corner without exposing the rest of your body. Second of all is the incremental door control system, something that I fondly remember when playing the old Splinter Cell games, which fantastic games. They were some of my first video games that I ever got to play, and there was just a level of polish in them that, to this day, just not many games can achieve. However, Ready or Not strives to accomplish a similar feat of being able to open a door just slightly in order to peek your head into the next room. Modular speed control is a rather interesting one that, again, playing Splinter Cell Chaos Theory on not PlayStation 3, because it wasn't out on the PlayStation 3, it was out on the PlayStation 2. Playing it on PC, you control your speed by scrolling up or down on your mouse wheel. Scrolling up would speed you up, and scrolling down would slow you down, fairly obviously. And that could be at least in Chaos Theory, could be used in order to control the speed at which you open doors, whether you bash them open in somebody's face, knocking them out, or you slowly creep open so as to avoid making noise. Next is a simulated and detailed third-person inventory. In a real-life, as they say, in a real-life situation, each item has its place in a loadout. This is a very important thing to know because you'll be able to see both what you've got and what your teammates have. That way you can coordinate a lot better. Magazines, grenades, and items are retrieved and returned to specific pouches and pouch flaps open and closing, just to provide that extra level of immersion. It's important that they do this primarily because a lot of games nowadays, the animations are rather canned, and you see in games such as Call of Duty or Rainbow Six Siege where somebody just pulls a magazine out of thin air whenever they're reloading their gun. Something that is going to be very nice is what they're terming convex collision armor. And basically what it's attempting to properly implement a ballistics model that would offer realistic protection, because if you get shot at a more oblique angle, the round's not going to go through per se. It'll damage the plate, obviously, but it's not going to damage it as much as if it were to hit the plate flat on. A nice thing to note in the next section is that they are working on the projectile, the overall projectile physics, making them more realistic, so that if you were to say shoot at the ground at a very oblique angle, the round will most likely, unless it's a very soft material, it will probably ricochet. Speed over distance, those types of things. And something to note is that they will be paying close attention to not only the ammunition type, such as AP, or armor piercing, full metal jacket, uh, what's the I can't remember the term for what law enforcement a typical law enforcement police officer. Oh, hollow point. That's what it was. Hollow point ammunition. All three of those will have different ballistic properties. However, something that a lot of games get wrong is the portrayal of different calibers. And from what I understand of these devlogs, Ready or Not is going to accurately portray the fact that a 308 round is going to have a lot more kinetic energy than a 22 than a 22 caliber. And so if you have a more heavily armored target, of course you're going to want that higher stopping power of, say, a 308 or a 556 or what have you. However, if you've got a lightly armored target, that may or may not be a good thing. Whereas the 22 can be used for more pinpoint accuracy. Next is the damage systems and effects. Something that was done very well in SWAT 4 was that if you were shot in the arms, your accuracy was greatly reduced, and if you were shot in the legs, you were reduced to only walking, whereas the default running, though not as quick as a run could be, it was a very effective way of providing consequences to being shot. What I like that Ready or Not is adding is that not only, well, with the legs, it's very obvious that you'd be slowed down based on the level of damage. Very, very, it's just common sense that if you're shot, but it's not as, if you're shot, you're going to be slowed down. But if it's not as bad of a shot, then, well, you're not gonna be suffering from as much pain as, say, as a shot straight through the thigh. Arm damage will obviously decrease accuracy because you're not going to have as much control of your arm from the pain and the blood loss. But a lot of games don't accurately show that if you're having trouble aiming, what makes you think that you're going to be able to, say, aim down your sights as quickly or reload your magazine as quickly. Head damage, I like how they termed it here. Head damage, provided it is survived, can haze the player's vision. And it's I like the fact that they added the provided it is survived part of that, because from the dev blogs that I've been reading so far, they are going with a very realistic approach to how lethal a shot will be. A lot of games, such as Call of Duty, if you're shot a whole bunch, well, your screen's going to go all red and you're close to death. But if you were to, say, go hide somewhere and not get shot up, then you'll be perfectly fine. However, that's not how it works. If you are shot somewhere, you are going to have to suffer with that throughout the rest of the mission, provided you don't bleed out. The next addition to that is the fact that it will be, all of the damage will be shown via a passive indicator, which passive in this regard means that the indicator won't be there unless you are damaged. A nice touch is some of the graphical thing. The next 2 points are very graphically oriented. such as the very visceral gore, which, I mean, it's to be expected. They're trying to go for a very realistic portrayal of a SWAT unit. And obviously, a say you've got a sniper Overwatch, if they're armed with, say, a 50 caliber rifle, which as unrealistic as it may seem, uh, if you get shot in the leg with that and you're not armored, that leg's gone. From where you got shot down, that leg is gone. Very, very simply put. However, if you were to be shot with, say, a 22, that's not going to happen. A nice little addition is right here where it says a bullet hole also become an open bullet hole will become an emitter. So if you knock your wounds onto an object, it'll create a small splatter on said object based on bone velocity. Bone being the skeleton of the player model. Okay, so here it says that in the future they want to implement an entire bodily destruction system. I'm assuming in the same vein as, say, Fallout 3, New Vegas, and 4. 3 in New Vegas more so than 4 because I'm pretty sure that they toned it down in that one. Regardless, that would be a very nice addition in the future. Highly detailed weapons, characters, environments, that kind of ties into the gore just because of the level of detail that they want to put into it. It'll be very nice to see very high quality renderings of all of the equipment that you'll be using, whether it go from a weapon to a grenade, or a different part of the tactical equipment, such as something as small as a door wedge. Next is the massive selection of items. Right now they have 30 plus items in total, which is nice to hear. It's also nice to hear that they are planning to add more. Next, a common issue in many first-person shooters are issues with balance. However, in a tactical shooter, it is very important to remember that each item will have its place. If you are going in to bust a drug lab, you're not going to be carrying CS gas grenades, as most of the people in said drug lab will probably be wearing some form of a gas mask. So you would want to bring, say, either it's called I can't remember the name now. It's essentially a fragmentation grenade. However, instead of throwing out fragments, it throws out rubber pellets that are intended to knock out the target. Either you would take those, or you would take, say, a bunch of flashbangs. Whereas if you're going up against a bunch of hardened criminals, you're going to want to take either armor piercing or full metal jacket, depending on the suspected level of armor that the perpetrators have. Before each mission, you'll be provided a briefing in time to prepare your inventory ahead of time, as one would expect. I like the fact that moving to the next point, I like the fact that they're intending to have a very competitive PvP section. So I will be very interested to see how exactly that plays out, whether it is a Rainbow Six Siege style in which one team plays as the essentially terrorists, and the other team playing as counter-terrorists. However, in this case, it would be the law enforcement versus criminals. Or if it's each group gets the same mission, however, they're in essentially separate instances, and they compete to see who can finish the objective at a faster rate, in the most effective manner, etc., etc. This is a little bit of a in continuity right here. They say that you can play with up to 10 friends for PvP and co-op, whereas up here they simply say up to 8 for cooperative. So I'm not sure which one it would be. Honestly, I would honestly consider 4 or 5 to be a realistic number. Whereas 8 to 10 are a little on the overkill side. Then again, I don't know as much. Maybe 8 does sound a bit better. That way, you've got more versatility in your group. Let's see here. Compete in yearly leaderboard competitions to earn unique skins. That'll be rather interesting. They do have a rather nice, at least so far, system idea at the least for the customization of your operator. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And a passive point score system, so most likely the way that would play out is, say, you would get more points for arresting suspects as opposed to knocking them unconscious. And also you would get more for knocking them unconscious than you would for straight out killing them. Next is the tactical analysis and planning phase, which is very interesting. It will be at least partially like Siege in that you'll be able to choose a different entry point and use unique items like ballistic shields, heavy rams, and telescoping ladders so that you can, say, enter on the second floor. The telescopic ladders are rather reminiscent of Siege's rappelling system. However, they are a bit more realistic, depending on the situation. Heavy rams and ballistic shields are a welcome addition, as you see many law enforcement officers forcing entry via a ram. Ballistic shields are a nice inclusion, primarily due to the tactical options that could provide. It wouldn't be like the oversized shields as seen in Siege. It would be a more realistic shield that is meant for protecting you from, say, hollow point ammunition for a limited time, of course, or against someone attempting to use some sort of chemical attack, whether it be their own pepper gas or something to that nature. I like the addition of blockading entrances in order to, say, corner the people that you are attempting to locate inside the operation area. And turning off power grids will be very handy in either buildings without windows or during nighttime missions, as that will provide more tactical options with the inclusion of, say, night vision goggles or infrared goggles, or a combination of the two, sans, say, the Tom Clancy Splinter Cell series, with the multiple modes on the visor. There is a reveal. Go ahead and look that up for yourself. I will not show that just because I don't want to get any copyright strikes. So that's the first dev blog. Moving on to the second. This one came out in on July 4th of 2017. So it was a little bit later. It was a little bit later on, not too far. However, there was a lot more in that one for them to talk about. This one's a little bit on the shorter side, with some interesting ideas, such as the UI, with a as seen a compass. This I am assuming to be a fire mode selector, so this would indicate that it is on semi-automatic, as well as how many magazines you have and the number of rounds in each magazine. However, don't get too comfortable with this due to the fact that in the next dev blog you'll see that some of this changes a fair bit. Next is environmental reactions. So you see this a lot in, say, the Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4 and some of the other Battlefield games. Battlefield is very well known for their environmental destruction, and I believe that is what Void Interactive is aiming for this. At least as far as looks, even if it doesn't actually deform the terrain. If it does, that would be fantastic, because it would just add that extra level of immersion. Next is weapon attachments. As you'll, I believe in the third dev blog, they talk a little bit more about this, but they want to allow you freedom to customize your weapon. And it makes sense that you would want to do that, as your attachments on your weapons would change based on your environment. You wouldn't go into a very closed-in house, for example, with a full-size assault rifle, say an M4A1, with a 3.4x zoom ACOG sight and an underslung shotgun. You would be more likely to go in with, say, an MP5 and a red dot sight for a more compact design. Either the MP5 or, say, a P90, depending on your preferences. But yeah, they talk a little bit more about this in Devblog 3, if not in the FAQ. Next is projectile dynamics. They're talking a little bit more about what they're planning on doing. Primarily their work on the dynamics of it, showing the different ballistic penetration powers of the different calibers, as well as the different ricochet likelihoods for the different materials. You wouldn't have a bullet ricochet off of, say, carpet. You wouldn't be as likely to have that happen as you would if you were to, say, shoot it on metal at a very oblique angle. Next is patch customization. We see something similar to this in Warframe. When you are the clan master, I want to say is the proper term for it, of a group, you would need to provide a URL in order for it to take. So that will be very interesting to see. We've got a couple of things as far as community goes, them thanking the community for what everything's going on. People supporting it, giving them donations. I have yet to figure out where the donations page is, as I would very much love to send them a donation, even if it's only like $5. Expansion of the company, adding a AI programmer and a technical animator, both of which are very, very important, especially the AI, because you don't want to go up against bad So that's Devblog 2. It didn't have as much to cover, however, it also didn't have as much time in between the devlogs. Next is Devblog 3, and I believe that this one, other than Devblog 1, well, I mean, there's only 3 to choose from, but there's a lot in Devblog 3. A lot of very, very cool information. It was published in March 11th of this year, so not too terribly long ago. They've started creating more art for the game with a nice ready or not watermark. I'm assuming that these are posed by their nice shiny new technical animator. As I said, where the update's been, they've been working. TLDR. They've been busy. They've been trying to put too much. Uh, they've been putting as much time as they can into the game itself, and they haven't really been working on the dev blogs as much. AI, they just recently, as they said in the previous devlog, they got a AI programmer, and they've been working on Suspect and SWAT AI. It's very nice that they're differentiating the two, as I believe that the old SWAT games didn't really have a they didn't really have a differentiable AI between the suspect and the suspect and the SWAT, the police officers, and that made things rather difficult when they didn't need to be, because it felt like if you're going into just some small-time thug's warehouse, you shouldn't be going up against people that are as trained as a highly elite SWAT member, or vice versa, where you've got SWAT members that are operating as stupidly as a untrained, just common thug. So it'll be very, very nice to see that they've been working on this, that they're working on making these SWAT police members. I'm probably I'm probably saying it super stupidly, saying SWAT police members. SWAT officers, that would be the proper term. Making it so that your AI officers are actually operating as an officer would, instead of just charging blindly into the next room without dealing with whatever's in the current room. So there's a couple more videos here. A few of these I will show, such as this one. It's just 12 seconds long. It's very, very cool because it shows a little bit more of how the AI is learning to be more fluid and to work with the player instead of the player working with the AI. So as you can see, it's rather bloody, but the player is just kind of poking out. He's working his way around them. He's got the SWAT members, the other officers going around checking to make sure that there's nothing around him going on. That's a nice shot for you. Let's go ahead and go here. So mocap, something very nice is the fact that for all of the AI movements, at least for the more specialized ones, as you'll see here in just a second, they're going with motion capture, and just watching it is incredibly nice to look at. So this is something that they recorded on day one, and this is the level of polish to expect, where the officer just goes around and he very quickly scans the entire room as he goes through. Next are the animations. Sadly, the animations are not as clean. They are work in progress. Some of them are a little canned, as you'll see towards the end. That one was rather decent. However, the next one, as you can see, he's shot multiple times, and the way that he falls doesn't change at all. Next is gameplay. There are a few very interesting things to remember, or there are a few interesting things to look out for, such as different ways to reload weapons. In this, uh, there are now two different ways in order to reload your magazine. There is a tactical reload and a fast reload. A fast reload would be something that you would use while in the middle of, say, a firefight. It is where you simply pull out a magazine, throw away the other one, and put the new one in and continue on. A tactical reload is where you will swap the magazines and hold on to the one that you've been using. This is useful if you're in a downtime and you don't want to lose track of your magazines, because maybe that one still has some usable ammunition in it. This is a very useful thing, and it is the only way to reload in SWAT 4 with weapons that have magazines, obviously, where you hold on to your other magazines and you swap to them if you end up cycling around back to them. If you accidentally do a speed reload when you intended to do a tactical one, you will be able to pick up your magazines. A nice thing that they've done is that they have changed the UI entirely. Instead of having the radial dial, the indicator for your fire mode, and showing you all of the magazines you have and all of the ammunition remaining in them, they've gone to this more simplified and, I guess, cleaned up look, where at the top you've got the general compass. In the center, you've got your degree facing. So in this case, he's facing 330. And you don't see in ammunition a fire mode selector or an indicator of how many magazines he has or how many rounds are in his magazine. Instead, they have decided to go to a system that gives you a general idea of how much ammunition is still in your magazine, ranging from completely full, nearly full, half empty, nearly empty, and completely empty. So it will be very interesting, and they're planning on the magazines themselves to show how much ammo is in them, instead of just having some all-knowing ammo counter at the bottom. This is a very welcome change from games such as Call of Duty or Rainbow Six Siege. I don't know, I haven't played Siege enough to know if it has a specific ammo count per magazine and specific magazine capacity, or if it is just yet another game that gives you a pool of ammunition and just lets you swap through your and just lets you change magazines whenever you feel like it, so that you're always topped off. They do have two videos showing the MP5 swapping between fully automatic and semi-automatic, as well as a tactical reload and a speed reload. They are very clean. Just for the sake of length, I won't show them. There's also one for the 5.57. I will say the 5.57 and the MP5 are very gorgeous models. This just looks blurry because he's in the middle of moving while posing for the thumbnail. They're very nice models. They're very detailed. I like that when the 5.57 runs out of ammunition, the slide stays back until you recock the pistol. As stated here, they talk about how they've gone to a less is more thought process when designing UI. The issue that I have with UI that just shows you everything as opposed to only showing you your compass and facing is that it it's a little bit too much of a hand-holding thing for me in a tactical shooter, which is meant to be uh, a very methodical game that you have to think your way through. A few other things. Uh, they're going to have 4 different grenades. Uh, Flashbang, CS gas, Sting Ball, which is another name for the one that I was trying to think of that shoots out rubber pellets, and a 9-bang. Gonna be honest, don't entirely know what a 9-bang is. I meant to look it up the other day, but I didn't. Uh, so you'll want to pay attention to where you are being deployed to decide on what type of grenades you will be taking. Some things is characters. Uh, Basically, they've just been working on making sure that everybody looks more accurate, that people look more accurate. That's a group of people. So yeah, that's the dev blogs. I would definitely recommend checking out their site. So until next time, this is Xanit Manticore signing off.